All right, welcome back to the channel. And today is a really important day for me personally. Now, there's something that I was a little bit embarrassed about, to be honest with you. And that thing that I'm embarrassed about was I was actually banned from driving for accumulating too many points, and that was the 5th of February. So I got a 6-month ban, and I didn't say anything on it, publicly, because I found it like fairly embarrassing. It's been quite a bit of a struggle getting trains to people's shows and trains down to see my parents down south. So yeah, it wasn't ideal, but today I get my license back. I was banned until the 4th of August. Today is the 5th of August, so it's my first journey back in my car. Feels good. It's like riding a bike. You never forget. So anyway, today's episode, I have thought about this actually. So I put on, as I said in the last episode, I put a thing on my Instagram where I wanted to see what people thought would be useful during prep, what they would like to see. And there's one thing that I thought of, and it was like prep hacks, things to make prep easy. I don't even think that I do them, but I do. I'm doing them without even realizing it. Prep to me isn't that hard. And I had my internal monologue was, why isn't it very hard? And I think it's not very hard because I engineer it that way. I make it that way. So in this episode, I'm going to share with you 5, maybe more actually. I'll share with you tips and tricks and hints to make prep as easy and smooth as possible. There is a reason why I don't find prep hard, and I'm going to share that with you on today's episode. As I say, it was a very, very important day for me today, getting my license back. It really made things difficult for me. And here's the mad thing, I don't feel like I'm a bad driver at all, but I feel like maybe I'm just a little bit careless in terms, 80 mile an hour and a 70 mile an hour, or going 40 mile an hour and a 30, And unfortunately for me, I got caught a few too many times. But anyway, back to normality. So, tips to make prep easier. I actually compiled a small little list. Now I wanted to do 5, but the God's honest truth is I think I've got a few more. But I'm going to try and compile the most useful ones that I believe are going to help you out. Now, the first one is actually really, really obvious because I'm doing it right now. So we are now 6:15 in the evening, and I'm only 1 meal deep, and I've had my some whey post-workout. I'm only 1 meal deep. One of the way it worked out, I didn't purposely make it this late. Normally it would be a little bit earlier, but where I'm still like at the beginning stages of prep, I'm not really hungry. It's very easy for me to do this. So the way that I used to view it was like this. So obviously the day's 24 hours, but I'm going to be awake for probably like 16, 17, 18 hours of those, So obviously taking away sleep. So within those hours, if I can spread my meals into a smaller period of time, it's going to make more sense to me. Instead of viewing the day like, oh, I've got to make my meals last all this time. Instead, I used to see it like this. I used to see it like, if I can just make it to training, and when you're training, you don't really think about food. Well, I certainly don't. If I just make it to training, then after training, I've got 4 or 5 meals left. So let's say I trained at about 1:30 in the afternoon. Then that train takes me to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then by the time I'm actually home, it's 3:30. And then by the time I actually have cooked my meal and then eat it, it's about 4. So basically, all I need to do is make it to training, make it to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then all of a sudden, the day's going to be easy. I know it is, because I've got because typically a lot of people, and myself included, I feel like when I know I've got something to look forward to and I know I've got a bit of food in the evening, it just softens the blow. I feel like it's quite easy. If I know I've got 4 or 5 meals to eat and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a piece of piss. So instead of viewing the day as like a big long stretch, if I just view it as like, make it to the morning, have 1 meal, a couple of cups of coffee, plenty of water, do your jobs, run your errands, do whatever you need to do. And then by the time you've made it to midday, you go training, and before you know it, easy peasy. So putting your meals back. Too many times do I see clients, and they'll check in with me, and then I'll get back to them by about sort of 8 in the morning, and they're already 1 meal down and thinking about their next meal, already by 8 o'clock in the morning. If you've only got 5 meals in a day and you're really hungry and you're already 2 meals deep by about, let's say, 8:30, 9, that's going to be a hard day for you if you're struggling for food. So instead, just put off. See it as like a little stint that you need to make. That's your first stint. That's the first obstacle you need to jump over. Make it to midday with plenty of food left. It makes the whole thing a lot easier. Then, so that is a couple of days worth of chicken done. In there. And that takes me to my next point, which is, and I'm just going to refer to my notes now. Right. Okay, so yes, the second one I've got on here is Very obvious one, but I don't think everyone does it. Some of you are thinking, yeah, obviously I'll do that, but there'll be some that don't. Zero drinks. Today's choice is something I've never had before. It's Pina Colada Oxy Shred, and it is pretty damn fucking good. One or two of these, not strictly this one, you know, maybe a Pepsi Max or something like that. A couple of those for the day, easy. Another thing as well, it's either black coffee. I've actually ended up enjoying black tea, but the thing is with that is black tea isn't as nice for me. But what I found really helps is this. And this is basically like a 0-calorie flavor drop kind of thing. Black tea, no sugar, no milk, little squirt of this in, and yeah, I mean, it is like a real treat, to be honest with you. And if you haven't got many calories to play with, little tricks can really, really help. It's so mad to me. Sometimes it's like people don't have them because they haven't thought of it. But then sometimes people are like worried about aspartame. They're thinking that it's, you know, drinking too many of these will make you fat. It really won't. There's fuck all in it. You know, some of them have got like the calories in it are actually negligible. Sometimes there's like 5, sometimes there's 10, but there's never any more than that. You know, 2 cans of that, let's just say worst case scenario, you're talking maybe 20, maybe 30 calories. I don't know. This isn't going to make you fat. It really isn't. Now, if you're going to go crazy with them, it could potentially harm digestion. But to be honest with you, I think a lot of the time you're going to be just fine. And I found that they really, really help. So for me, massive, massive help. Yeah, so that is the first 2 tips to help with prep. So I'm going to have a couple more meals and I'll get back to you with some more tips. So yeah, so I'm just waiting for my chicken now. I come to enjoy a bit of nature and actually it just started spitting, which is a bit fucking annoying. But anyway, and actually I just thought of 2 other things to help out. Now, these weren't actually written down. They were just things that I was thinking. When I look at people's stories, they seem like they're incredibly food focused. And that's absolutely fine. But if your sole focus is food, then dieting down is going to be really fucking hard. So I don't know if that's just like your genetic predisposition to always be hungry, or if it's because you've never really pushed up food, therefore you're not going to be bored of food. Trust me, that's the thing. When you're in a growth phase before a prep, you do get yourself bored of food. If you never reach that point, you're always sort of vying for more food. Now, I'm not saying don't enjoy food. Yeah, sure, great. Go wild, go bananas. But if your sole focus, if your main focus is food, it's going to be so much harder for you. I always tell the people that are food focused, right? All their stories are like they'll be stirring their oats really slowly and like pushing in the dark chocolate, or you know, they do the love heart emojis or like the drooling emoji on their like dinner and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, do you know what? As I say, it's not saying don't enjoy your food, but it's like, honestly, bodybuilding is one of the only sports where I feel like you need to restrict. I mean, okay, certain things where you need to make weight, okay, I'll agree, but a lot of time, you know, you're using food for performance, which you still are with bodybuilding, but it's very much restricted and it's not like other sports. So if you're going to be bodybuilding and go on a stage and you're massively food focused, dare I say even obsessed, this is going to be a problem. It's going to be way harder for you. And the other one is, just because you want the fucking result. If the end result doesn't really mean anything to you, if you're like, yeah, if I get on stage, cool, but if I don't, whatever. Or, you know, sometimes people might book a photo shoot for himself, but they're looking for a reason to do it. But the reason doesn't really mean anything. You know, they don't actually really care if they do it or not. And I feel like that's going to be incredibly difficult. It's going to make the whole process seem so much harder. You know, if you're not working towards something and you're not getting those sort of dopamine hits, it's going to feel incredibly difficult. So these weren't included on my original list, but I just thought I'd throw them in there now. Focus less on food, focus more on the goal. So the first 2 tips, and then obviously the 2 that I thought of on top of that. And now I've got a couple more for you. So the first tip I would say that's really, really important and very, very overlooked is the start position. How lean you are when you begin your diet is going to dramatically affect how extreme you have to go on your diet. Now, if you don't have to go extreme, it's way easier, right? So having a lower body fat percentage is going to be massively beneficial to your prep. If you give yourself too much to do, it's going to be a fucking uphill battle, and more than likely you're going to start feeling like shit. So that is tip number 3. And tip number 4 is get cravings out the way. Something that me and Amy talk about quite a lot actually is when I'm not in competition prep and I'm in off season, you know, it's this, you know, as much as I like to stick to my diet plan and eat the meals I'm scheduled to eat, also, if I crave something, I'll fucking have it. Now, getting rid of these cravings is vital to me because if I'm on prep and I'm thinking to myself, fuck, I could kill a Five Guys burger, or I could fucking kill whatever. Granted, I don't really have these thoughts that often, but I think part of the reason why I don't have these thoughts is because I've allowed myself to have them. So instead of, you know, when you're just about to finish your off season, you're about to go into prep, a lot of people have like a last supper, like a final meal, like a big blowout before they start prep. But the last 2-3 months, I've been eating my plan, but I've been in, if I wanted something, I'll have it. And I think that is the key. There's nothing really that I'm massively craving because I kind of had it all already. Over the past 2 or 3 months, I've been eating pretty decent food. And so now prep, all of a sudden, I don't have these mad cravings because I sort of got them out of my system. So tip number 4, get your cravings out your system. You see, we're still not 100% on letting Franco off the lead. So we let him off, but with the lead still on him, it seems to slow him down a little bit. Hopefully he plays fetch into the water with stones. Come on, boy. Franco. Anyway, tip number 5 for prep. Remember that you're prepping and it's a choice that you made and you don't have to burden everyone else with it. Now, the reason why this is a tip to make it easier for you is that the harder your home life is, the harder it is with the people around you, the harder it's going to be for you. If you're making it hell for your partner because you're being super neurotic with your meal timings or you can't do anything, everything is about prep, then you're kind of making it harder for yourself. So instead, try and think of ways where you can still be a normal person, be a great bodybuilder and not be completely anal with absolutely every detail. I think it's quite important to be able to try and balance things. I say the easier you make it for people around you, the easier it's going to be for you. So just because you're on prep, that doesn't mean they're on prep. And also remember that it is a choice. So try not to make everyone else's life hell just because you're hungry as well. That's another one as well. I never understand that. You're a bit hungry, so you start just taking it on everyone else. It's fucking, like, grow up. Claim to love bodybuilding and you want to bodybuild and you want to, be a great competitor, but you can't handle a little bit of hunger. Just fucking accept it. It's part of it. So, yeah. Try not to make it shit for everyone else, Right, go. Tip number 6 is volumizing your food. So when a plan says like chicken, rice, mixed veg, or chicken, potato, veg, whatever it is, how you make it really matters. So you could just make it with a chicken breast, some potato, some veg, dry on your plate. Or you could make it a little bit more interesting. So what I've done is I've started to cook the onion and pepper. A little bit of tomato in there. But then the key is about 1/3 of a tin of tinned tomatoes. But then to really volumize that, water. And I've got my ready cooked chicken that I made earlier. Add this to it. This is not for you, unfortunately. Remember that? Mixed veg, chicken. Now I'm going to microwave the rice and pop it in and I'll show you the end result. I've always got to give in because he's too cute. Anyway, sit. Stay. Let's see if he can catch. Good boy. And again. So this meal is actually around about 500 to 520 calories, about 60 grams of protein, 5 grams of fat. There's not a lot in it at all. Very, very light meal. However, the volume of the meal is pretty damn good. And there's actually, you can literally see the water in there. But that's going to do a really good job of help keeping you full. Now, I'm not at the stage of prep where I'm even very hungry at the moment, so it's a little bit redundant on me, but this is something that I will incorporate into a lot of my meals, especially towards the end. Now, there's a meal that I typically have when I'm edging closer towards prep, beef mince, veg, potato, but it ends up being like a soup, literally like a soup. And not only is it more volume, but it literally takes me longer to eat. And that in itself is worth its weight in gold. Something that takes you about half an hour to eat ends up being a little bit more satisfying. So about 500 calories and pretty full after the back of that. Tip number 7 comes at you from a wet and a bit miserable dog walk with the boy getting my steps in, getting his steps in. So anyway, tip number 7 is not making your whole existence about competing. Yes, bodybuilding is intense, and yes, you need to give it your all, but you're still a person as well, and you're still a person with a personality. I'm guessing. Maybe some of you haven't, but no, I'm joking. You're still a person, you're still a friend, you're still a brother, you're still a son, you're still a boyfriend, you're still a girlfriend, you know? You're still other things. You're not just the boring bodybuilder. You can still be a good bodybuilder, be a successful bodybuilder, and still have a personality. Don't lose yourself in prep. Recently I've seen some people saying, I'm gonna hold back from prep because I'm not able to perform my day-to-day tasks. You know, basically they're saying that it's taken away from their life. And that's, you know, everyone's different. But I certainly don't feel that. And I know people as well in the same boat as me, where actually they become a bit more efficient in prep. I wake up earlier, I feel fresher, I feel sharper. So, you know, you can look at numerous different ways, but it doesn't need to engulf you completely. As I say, you can still be completely dedicated and have a personality. A bit like tip number 5, it makes it a whole lot easier for you, but also the people around you. They don't have to endure your shit. It is breakfast time. It is Saturday the 10th of August. My normal breakfast is 4 bacon medallions, 2 whole eggs and a bagel, 75 granola, 250 0% Greek yogurt and 100 grams of strawberries. And this is a hydration drink. Maybe 3 of these before I even train, and that's a really good idea, especially for injury prevention, especially for chest. I find that I always get a lot of niggles around here, so I just have to be a bit mindful. Anyway, I've done quite a lot of tips, and I didn't think that I even had this many, but apparently I have. So as the weeks progressed, I've realized that there's more and more things that I do and things that I try to help out. But I want to be quick. I don't want to dwell on them too much. The first one, be thorough. Specifically what I mean with that is the mindset of thinking that will do. Yeah, that'll do. You know, like, specifically why I thought of it this week was with measuring your food. Like trying to shortcut anything. Just anything to make things easier for yourself. And now I get it, you want to be a little bit comfortable in prep, but the mindset of, like, for example, just now I over poured on my granola. I went to 77 grams when I'm only supposed to have 75. Now the mindset of just thinking, oh, it's only 2 grams, I just can't get on board with that. And I think it just sets you up in a negative headspace. Or if I make my meals tasty, if I add bits and bobs where I can, if I can miss a couple of minutes of cardio, if I can not necessarily go to failure in training, if I can skimp out on anything, I will. And I just think this sets up a negative headspace, and I just don't think it's conducive to a productive prep. I think if you're going to do it properly. And I think the more into something you are, the more likely you're going to fall in love with it as well. Allowing yourself to live a somewhat normal life. So for example, one of my meals in my plan is chicken, rice, veg. I mean, I'm a bodybuilder, so of course it is, right? But that's just one time a day. But instead of thinking to myself, like, it has to be that and it has to be this, I think it's almost like an autistic mindset towards it. Actually, sometimes to keep your partner happy, it's quite a good idea. Like, for example, we might go to Nando's. We'll be out and about, walking around town, and I think to myself, right, I can have a Nando's. So just have a chicken breast. So just have the butterfly chicken, take off the skin, so just remove the fat from it. Have the spicy rice, which is cooked in other bits and bobs, I believe. I think there's a slightly higher fat content, but it's close enough. And then I might have like the steamed broccoli with it. So that's veg, rice, chicken. So yeah, as much as the rice is cooked in something, it could potentially be slightly high calories. If it's just as a one-off, I don't really see it as too much of an issue. And I think what that gives you in terms of mental respite and also less pressure in your relationship is going to be really, really helpful. And you might go to a restaurant, you might go to a pub, you might do anything like that. And there's usually an option. There is usually an option where you can choose, and you know full well that you could have it and it wouldn't be too detrimental to anything. If anything, sometimes you have that thing and you might even undereat. So you might have slightly less calories in the meal that you had out, which is absolutely fine, because I think what it gives you in terms of like normality and less pressure with your partner, losing a few calories is not really an issue. Sort of make that allowance. So basically allowing yourself a little bit of leeway in terms of that. So that's tip 8 and tip 9. More tips for you there. I'm going to enjoy my breakfast now. Also, it is 10 past 11, so I've put my meals off. I was up at about 7:30 this morning. Yeah, should be an easy day. Right, so hopefully you've made it through this far. I've given you 9 tips plus an extra 2, so actually technically speaking it's 10, but let's call it 9. 9 tips so far to make prep easier. But to be honest with you, a lot of this I can just intercept with, realistically speaking, you shouldn't always be looking for the easy option. If something is a little bit hard, relish the fact that it's a little bit hard, because that's where you're going to grow. If you're always in your comfort zone, you're very rarely going to get the result that you're after. So sometimes, if it does just suck a little bit, but you're working towards a big goal, so be it. So as much as I'm saying all these tips to try and make it easier, realistically speaking, it is going to be a challenge. But embrace that, because there is going to be a time when you won't be able to do it anymore, and you'll look back at your younger years and think, fuck, I shouldn't have moaned so much. But anyway, I am going to finalise with a bit of a controversial one. So tip number 10. Very controversial, and I shouldn't really recommend it, but I'm going to anyway. Vapes. Something that, again, as I say, I'm very, very eager to make sure that I shouldn't really be advocating it, but I'm telling you now, this absolutely stunts your appetite. I like to think of this as my secret weapon towards the back end of prep. Like when I'm really feeling the pinch of prep and I'm pretty hungry, this is my secret weapon. So I'll just intermittently use this through the day. Hunger levels definitely drop after you've done it. So in fact, if I do this in off season, I'm screwed. So just in the latter stages of prep, I do this. As I say, it's a little bit controversial to be recommending this, but yeah, definitely helps. So this is my tip number 10, vaping. And that is my final tip of this episode. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.